Okay, so you sent over this paper on agent laboratory. And wow, it really got us thinking about the future of, research. Just imagine like AI handling all the tedious stuff, like digging through all those research papers, setting up experiments, even like drafting reports. And that's like the big promise of agent laboratory, right? This new system that's supposed to like supercharge machine learning
Yeah.
research.
Yeah. It's not just about speed, though. It's more about, like, really boosting what humans can do. Like, think about it. Researchers are always, like, overflowing with ideas, but there's only so much time, right? So Agent Laboratory is all about freeing up that time so you
Yeah.
can, focus on the really big, important stuff.
I can already picture myself like on a beach with a margarita while my AI research assistant is, making all the groundbreaking discoveries. Okay, but seriously, how does this actually work?
Well, it's kind of like putting together your own like research dream team,
Yeah.
but it's all powered by AI. You start by giving Agent Laboratory like your research idea and like any notes or papers you've already got. Kind of like giving your team a briefing.
Okay, so I've got my idea, I've got my notes all ready to go. What next? Do I just like sit back and wait for the Nobel Prize?
Not quite, not quite. So Agent Laboratory uses what they call a pipeline of these specialized AI agents. It's like having, like a PhD student to handle all the literature review, a postdoc to like plan the experiments, and then like an ML engineer to write all the code. They even have a specific agent just for writing the final report.
So it's like assigning like different tasks to different experts on your team.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense. But how do these like AI agents actually talk to each other and coordinate all their work? Is there like a tiny little AI conference room where they're all arguing about the best methods?
Well, they might not be arguing over coffee or anything, but they do communicate through dialogue. All these agents share like information, results, even code with each other.
Yeah.
So they're all working together to produce, a research report and a code repository that you can actually use.
That's really neat. But how good can AI-generated research actually be? I mean, summarizing existing knowledge, that's one thing. But can AI actually come up with like new ideas and new discoveries?
That's a great question. And the paper actually like really digs into that. By testing Agent Laboratory in a bunch of different ways, like they had human experts evaluate the papers that Agent Laboratory generated, and the results were actually pretty interesting.
Okay, give me the scoop. Were the AI papers like brilliant, terrible, somewhere in between?
It kind of depends on like how you define brilliant. One really interesting thing they found was that the AI models themselves, they actually rated their own papers way higher
Yeah.
than the humans did. Makes you wonder how,
Oh, yeah.
how differently machines and humans judge quality.
Yeah. It's like when you think you aced a test, but then you get the results back and, not so much. Maybe the AI needs a little bit more self-awareness.
Maybe, yeah. But there's another really important part of this testing. They actually tried two different modes. So there's the autonomous mode, where the AI basically does everything on its own. And then there's co-pilot mode, where a human researcher can like give feedback at each step.
So it's not just about replacing humans entirely. It's more about collaboration, right? Like having a research partner.
Yeah.
But one that never sleeps and never complains about, data entry.
Exactly. And like you might expect, the co-pilot mode ended up producing like higher quality results overall. It seems like that human touch is still there. Really important for guiding the whole research process and making sure that, the findings are actually good.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having, a superpowered research assistant who can handle all the, like, really heavy lifting, but still needs a human to, steer the ship.
Yeah.
And make sure it doesn't run aground. So tell me more about these different modes. Like, what kind of research were they actually testing with Agent Laboratory?
Well, they tried a few different things. So in the autonomous mode, they gave the system like 5 specific research questions and just, let it go.
Yeah.
And then they had actual like PhD students
Yeah.
evaluate the papers that Agent Laboratory came up with.
So they gave it some real-world research challenges and then had human experts judge the results. That's a pretty good way to,
Yeah.
see how it stacks up. What kind of questions were they looking at?
Things like are the language models sensitive to word order and multiple choice benchmarks? Or like, how does image noise affect the performance of image recognition models?
Yeah.
Basically, questions that are, relevant to the field of machine learning. And that would require like a good understanding of the current research.
And how'd it do? Did it, impress those PhD students? And how'd it do? Did it, impress those PhD students?
Well, it was kind of a mixed bag.
Okay.
Some topics it did better than others, like the paper on word order sensitivity and language models. That one actually got pretty high marks for quality and usefulness.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all solution, which makes sense. Even human researchers have their, specialties. I'm guessing the choice of AI model probably matters too, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The paper actually talks about the performance of different large language models, or LLMs for short. I can't like Power Agent Laboratory. They tested out GPT-4 o1 Mini and o1 Preview. And each one had like its own strengths and weaknesses.
It's like choosing the right tool for the job, right?
Yeah.
Some tools are just better suited for certain tasks, so which one came out on top?
It really depends what you're looking for. So the o1 Preview model, that one was consistently rated as the most useful.
Yeah.
At least by, those PhD student reviewers. But there's a catch. It was also the most expensive to run.
Ah, the classic trade-off. Quality versus cost. What about the other models? How'd they do?
Well, GPT-4 was definitely the cheapest. But it also consistently scored the lowest in like terms of quality. It's like that old saying, you get what you pay for.
So if you're on a tight budget, GPT-4o might be okay to start with, but if you really want like top-notch research, you might have to, shell out a bit more for that o1 Preview. What about their that middle ground option, the o1 Mini?
Right. So o1 Mini kind of landed
Yeah.
somewhere in between in terms of both cost and like performance. It wasn't the cheapest,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the most expensive either. And it actually did pretty well, especially when it came to like generating high quality experiments.
So it sounds like researchers will have to like really weigh their options carefully, consider their budget, the specific research question they're looking at, and the, desired level of quality. It's not as simple as just hitting go and letting the AI do its thing.
Exactly. And speaking of letting the AI do its thing, remember those two modes we talked about? Autonomous and co-pilot? Well, they actually compared those two to see how like human involvement actually affects the quality of the research.
Okay, so they kind of pitted the AI against itself, with and without human guidance. What happened? Did co-pilot mode, with the humans in the loop, did that produce better research?
It did, yeah. The papers that were generated with human feedback, those actually scored higher in a bunch of different areas, like overall quality and soundness of the research.
So it seems like that human touch is still really important, even in, this age of AI-powered research. It's not just about like offloading tasks to a machine. It's more about a true like collaboration using both, human expertise and AI efficiency.
Exactly. And it's interesting to see like where that human feedback had the biggest impact. So they found that human involvement really helped in making the research like more presentable, improving the clarity and how the findings were actually presented.
So the AI might be great at, crunching numbers and generating results, but it still needs a human editor to like polish things up and make it understandable to other researchers.
It seems that way, yeah.
Yeah.
But when it came to the like actual content of the research, contributing new knowledge, pushing the boundaries, the scores were actually pretty similar between the two modes.
So the AI might be able to come up with like novel insights, but it still benefits from human guidance to make sure those insights are,
Meaningful.
and relevant to the bigger picture. It's like having a brilliant but kind of unfocused research assistant. They need a little bit of, direction to really shine.
That's a great analogy. But even with, the human guidance, the co-pilot papers, they still didn't quite reach the average score for like accepted papers at a top conference.
Yeah.
Like NeurIPS, for example.
So clearly there's still room for improvement, right? Agent Laboratory isn't going to replace human researchers anytime soon, but it definitely points to a future where AI plays a much bigger role in research.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine a world where, researchers can test out multiple ideas at the same time, explore all these different avenues, and do it all in like a fraction of the time and cost. It could be a total game changer for scientific discovery.
It's an exciting thought. But as we've been talking about, there are definitely some, risks and ethical considerations that come with it.
And the paper actually like acknowledges that. The authors really emphasize the need for, responsible development and transparent usage of this kind of technology. It's a powerful tool, and we need to make sure it's being used for good.
Speaking of responsible development, what about the future of Agent Laboratory itself? Are there plans to like improve it and address some of the limitations we've talked about?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The paper outlines some like really exciting directions for the future.
Right.
One of the key things they mention is the need for like better integration with external tools and platforms.
Right, because right now it's kind of like having a brilliant research assistant stuck in a room with no internet access. They can do amazing things, but their potential is limited because they can't, connect with all the other research tools and resources out there.
Exactly. Imagine if Agent Laboratory could,
Mm.
like, seamlessly access and analyze data from tons of different sources, like databases, simulations, even real-time sensor networks. The possibilities would be endless.
It'd be like giving your AI research assistant a supercharged toolkit to
Yeah.
tackle even more complex and challenging questions. What other improvements are on the horizon?
They also talk about the need for more like sophisticated human-in-the-loop mechanism. So it's not just about,
Mm.
providing feedback at certain points. It's more about having this like dynamic
Mhm.
and nuanced interaction between humans and the AI throughout the whole research process.
So instead of just like, hey, giving the AI a list of tasks and waiting for the results, it's more about this, ongoing dialogue, brainstorming ideas together, and refining the research direction in real time. It's like having a true, research partner,
Mm.
but one that can process information and
Yeah.
generate insights at like superhuman speed.
Exactly. They even suggest exploring
Mm.
like natural language interaction so researchers could actually like talk to the AI agents
Right.
in a more intuitive way, like having a conversation with your research assistant, bouncing ideas off each other and working together to, achieve a shared goal.
That would be incredible. It would make the whole research process feel so much more like natural and collaborative. But what about some of those more fundamental limitations we talked about earlier, like the AI's tendency to, hallucinate results?
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And the authors are definitely aware of it. They suggest looking into things like, fact-checking. So
Yeah.
the AI could,
Right.
cross-reference its findings with like existing knowledge bases
Mm.
and validate its results against independent sources.
Yeah. It's like a built-in bullshit detector for the AI, making sure it doesn't get carried away with, its own interpretations of the data.
Exactly. And they also highlight the need for explainable AI. So researchers can actually understand, how the AI arrived at its conclusions
Mm.
and identify any like potential biases
Mm-hmm.
or errors in its reasoning.
So it's not just about trusting the AI blindly, right? It's
Yeah.
about understanding its thought process and making sure it's aligned with, our own standards for scientific rigor and
Yeah.
ethical conduct.
Exactly. And to like further ensure responsible use, they also recommend developing
Yeah.
standardized guidelines and best practices for using AI in research. It's about creating a framework that promotes both,
Innovation.
and accountability.
It's like a code of conduct for AI research assistants, making sure they're playing by the rules and contributing to knowledge in a,
responsible and ethical way.
responsible and
That's a great way to put it. So to sum it all up, Agent Laboratory is more than just a like cool piece of technology. It's a glimpse into a future where the whole research process is, transformed,
Yeah.
becoming more efficient, more collaborative, and potentially, much more groundbreaking.
It's exciting, a little bit daunting, honestly. And it definitely raises a lot of questions about, the future of research and
Yeah.
the role of human researchers in this, like, brave new world of AI collaboration. But I have to admit, I'm pretty excited to see where it all leads.
Me too. But before we, get too carried away with all the possibilities, there's one final point for the paper that I think is like really worth highlighting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So the authors argue that by automating all those like
Yeah.
technical and repetitive parts of research, Agent Laboratory could actually free up human researchers to focus on the,
The big ideas.
it's like taking the robot out of the scientist.
Yeah.
So we can spend less time on like data entry
Yeah.
and more time on actual, thinking, theorizing, problem solving.
Exactly.
It's about unleashing like human creativity and ingenuity.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where researchers can spend less time, wrangling data and more time developing those like groundbreaking theories,
Mhm.
designing innovative experiments, and having those, aha moments that lead to real scientific breakthroughs.
It's a powerful thought, and it raises a fundamental question. If AI can handle all the heavy lifting, what new frontiers of knowledge might we be able to explore?
That's a question that I think Agent Laboratory,
Yeah.
with all its,
Ongoing development.
and all the ethical considerations we've been discussing, I think it'll help us answer that question. But before we like dive headfirst into all those possibilities, I think it's time for a little break.
Agreed. Let's take a quick pause. And when we come back, we'll explore some of the broader implications of Agent Laboratory and what it might mean for, the future of research as a whole. Okay, so we've talked about all the nuts and bolts of Agent Laboratory, how it works, the different models, the pros, the cons, but what does it all, really mean for the future of research? That's what I'm really curious about.
Yeah, it's about more than just, making research faster or cheaper. It's really about
Yeah.
a potential paradigm shift in how we approach scientific discovery as a whole.
Okay, paradigm shift. That sounds pretty dramatic. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, the paper suggests that agent laboratory could kind of lead us away from like a purely hypothesis-driven approach to research and more towards a,
Hmm.
an exploratory data-driven model.
So instead of starting with a specific idea and then like trying to prove or disprove it, we might just, let the AI loose on a massive data set and see what patterns come up.
Yeah, that's the idea. With AI handling all the, the grunt work of analyzing data and testing hypotheses, researchers could actually explore a much wider range of possibilities and maybe uncover, unexpected connections and potentially like groundbreaking insights.
It's like having an AI explorer, right? Venturing into like uncharted territories of data and bringing back all these treasures that we didn't even know existed. But that brings up a question for me. If the AI is like generating these hypotheses and running the experiments, how do we know that the findings are actually, reliable and valid? It can't just be a like free-for-all, right?
Right, you're absolutely right. This kind of new approach would definitely require some like robust mechanisms for evaluating AI-generated research. We'd need to, put in some checks and balances, maybe involve a combination of like automated validation, peer review by human experts, and maybe even replication studies to really confirm the findings.
So basically, we need to hold AI-generated research to the same standards as human-led research. We can't just take the AI's word for it.
Exactly. And it's not just about the, the results themselves. It's also about understanding the whole research process. So if an AI is making decisions about, what to investigate and how to do it, we need to be able to see its reasoning. We need transparency. We need to understand the why behind the what.
Right. It can't just be like a black box that spits out amazing discoveries, but we have no idea how it got there. That wouldn't be very helpful in the long run. We need to be able to, like, trace the AI's logic, identify potential biases, and make sure that the research is, truly sound.
That's a crucial point. It's about finding that that balance between the incredible efficiency of AI and the need for transparency and accountability in the scientific process. And that's something we'll need to, carefully consider as these AI tools become more and more integrated into research.
And speaking of considerations, we can't forget about the, the ethical implications. As AI starts playing a bigger role in research, we need to make sure it's aligned with human values and principles.
Absolutely. You'd be really careful about, preventing bias from creeping into the research process and guarding against any, potential misuse. AI should be used to, advance knowledge and benefit humanity, not to make existing problems worse or create new ones.
So it's not just about developing these, powerful AI tools. It's also about creating a framework that encourages both, innovation and responsibility. It's a big task, and it's going to take, collaboration between researchers, AI developers, and policymakers to get it right.
I totally agree. And it goes beyond, just rules and guidelines. We need to really cultivate a culture of ethical AI development and use. Researchers need to be educated on, the potential benefits, but also the risks of these tools so they can use them, thoughtfully and responsibly.
It's about recognizing that, AI isn't here to replace human researchers. It's a tool, a powerful tool that can help us, amplify our abilities and push the boundaries of what we know. But like any powerful tool, it needs to be used wisely and ethically.
Well said. Okay, so I love those what if questions. So let's imagine for a second what a future might look like where AI research assistants are commonplace, not just in machine learning, but in all areas of science.
Okay, I'm picturing researchers working side by side with their AI counterparts, bouncing ideas off each other, designing experiments together, analyzing data in real time. It's like having a whole team of, super-powered research assistants working around the clock to speed up discoveries.
And as these AI systems, get even more sophisticated, they might even start contributing their own original ideas, challenging existing paradigms, and even suggesting, entirely new research directions.
It's like we're on the cusp of a new era of co-creation between humans and AI. It's kind of mind-blowing, honestly. And it definitely brings up questions about things like authorship and intellectual property. If an AI contributes to a, major breakthrough, who gets the credit?
That's a great question. And it's one that we'll definitely have to, grapple with as these technologies keep evolving. But beyond those, legal and philosophical questions, there's also the impact on the research workforce itself. If AI can automate so many tasks, what does that mean for, the the role of human researchers.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. Are we all going to be, like, out of a job, replaced by
I
robots?
don't think it's about, like, replacement. It's more about evolution. I think AI will actually, you know, enhance our abilities
Yeah.
and allow us to really focus on the tasks that require, like, uniquely human skills. Things like, creativity, critical thinking,
Yeah.
ethical judgment.
So it's not about taking the human out of science. It's about taking the robot OUT of the scientist,
Mm.
freeing us up to, tackle those big questions, grapple with the ethical dilemmas, and ultimately,
Pursue knowledge for the benefit of humanity.
exactly, and that pursuit with it,
Yeah.
responsible integration of AI has the potential to be
Yeah.
even more impactful and inspiring than ever before. So to bring it all back to Agent Laboratory, it's more than just a cool research project. It's a glimpse into a future where human ingenuity and AI efficiency can work together to unlock new frontiers of scientific discovery.
It's a future full of, both challenges and opportunities. We need to be thoughtful and ethical in how we proceed. But the potential rewards are huge.
It's a journey that's just beginning, and we're excited to see where it leads. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI-powered research.